Well, happy Friday, everybody. Hey, I just wanted to follow up on some of the nation's events that are going on this Friday. And I'm sure you saw on TV that Attorney General Merrick Garland, they've decided to appoint a special counsel. Um, I really don't have any answers on why that's going to happen, other than Garland wants to eject himself from the process so it doesn't appear partisan. Some people are arguing that, well, there's enough evidence to indict Trump, whereas some people say it's politically motivated and we can't move on as a country if we don't indict. Some people are saying that, well, what you saw on January 6th really isn't what you saw. There's a lot of sides of the arguments that are going on between Republicans and Democrats. We're going to have a new House come January. The new Congress gets sworn in, and we'll see how things will look. Because the important thing to remember is that in 2024, in the presidential election, it's really going to be determined who gets the most done. And I don't see any other way other than both parties coming together and working things out for the will of the American people. We know now that the voters that voted in these midterms were Generation Z. They were a good majority of voters. If you looked in my subsequent video that I posted, they were approximately 70%. That's 70% of all the voters in America who voted. Now, here in Arizona, we have some challenges here. Kerry Lake is challenging the results of the governor election, and so is the Secretary of State. And I will tell you that there's not going to be a recount. Everybody has a right to contest an election, and I'm just going to give you my viewpoint on this subject. But when you continually use the wrong language, when you don't use your words carefully and start saying reckless assumptions that the election was stolen, judges are watching the social media venues as well, and they are getting biased. There are, judges alone. If you look at judges and step in their shoes, they're humans too. And if you don't think that they're watching the choice of words that the critics are saying, you might want to step into reality. In the court of law, sometimes things don't always seem fair, because it's not who is right or wrong. It's the individual who brings a court case to court against a defendant that provides the most evidence, the most weight of evidence exceeds a possible contrary conclusion, or it outweighs any conclusion that can be refuted. Because you have in a criminal case, you have a prosecutor, you have a district attorney, and then you have the defendant, whereas in a civil case, you got the plaintiff, and then you got the defendant. So everybody has a right to challenge an election, but you got to do it the right way to get the law on your side. But the problem that we've had here in the United States, or those of you that are watching outside the U.S., is that words do matter. And I said this over and over again to my Republican friends, as well as my Democratic friends, and you just can't go out and point fingers unless you have substantiating evidence that cannot refute a contrary conclusion. That means that the evidence you have is so overwhelming that a contrary conclusion cannot be refuted. And that's why in the 2020 election, there really wasn't any evidence to counteract the allegation of fraud. But more importantly, though, in the court of law, within the courts, within the judicial system, within judges, because I've testified in court as an expert witness since I work in cybersecurity, that evidence has to be competent, it has to be admissible, and it's got to be convincing. It's got to pass the the common sense test, or it's got to pass the rules of evidence, as I call it, not really common sense, according to the law, according to what's been established as considered admissible evidence versus non-admissible. Now, in the cases that we're seeing right now, the arguments here in Arizona, allegations of fraud, those assumptions right now are very reckless, in my professional opinion. So we're not going to see much headway in that, even though that Kari Lake has every right to contest the election. Any judge that's going to look at it is probably going to say, nope, overruled. And whether that's fair or not, that's the way it works. There's not going to be a re-election in Arizona or a re-election in 2020 when Joe Biden won the state. So the point to remember is that if you have a grievance about something in the court of law, you have to use your words very carefully to get the law on your side, to get the judge on your side. You got to win the hearts and minds of these judges and within the judicial system. Otherwise, it's going to make you look like you're not credible, your evidence isn't good, get out of here. Kind of like a Judge Judy scenario. Leave my courtroom. And some judges are like Judge Judy, believe it or not. But listen, we're going to be okay. I think the dust needs to settle here first, and we'll see how things go. And continue to exercise your constitutional right as a U.S. citizen to vote, and continue to stay informed on what really matters to keep America thriving. Okay? All right. God bless you all. Have a good day, and I'll see you soon.